Alright, so today's the day for spark plugs in the 2000 Honda Insight Hybrid with IMA assist, okay? These spark plugs are indexed, and at the end of each spark plug there's a stamp. All of mine are B. And if you don't know what you have, you pull out the coil pack, and then on the block it's stamped what you need. You can see right there next to where the spark plug goes is a stamp, and all three of mine are B. So the problem comes in with these spark plugs is that they are a dealer only item, and they cost 30 bucks each if you go to your local dealer. Then you go online and you can get them for 20 bucks each plus $10 shipping, and then you can have them show up at your house within 10 days for $70. And that's what you should do. Just order the ones you need, like me, 3 Bs, have them delivered. I was on the website and I tried with my debit card, declined. I tried with my credit card, declined. I use a credit union and they're really strong with their online purchase restrictions. You always got to call them. And I just took that as a sign that I needed to try something else. So I got on NGK's website and I was comparing all the attributes that they'll tell you about these. They don't tell you everything. They won't even tell you the automotive application for these because it's a dealer only item. It's special made for them. But comparing the thread and the length and the electrode and the ground and all those different materials that they do give you information about, I went out and I bought $200 of spark plugs. And I'm going to pick the best 3 of these that match what I think I need, okay? The stock plug wants a ILZFR5A11. What I'm going for is the LZFR5C111. And I'll show you in the second half of this video why I chose this spark plug. But for now, let's just assume these are the right ones and get them indexed. So the problem with hoping that you can return spark plugs after you buy them is if you install them, they shouldn't take them back. They might take them back, but that would be a miscalculation on the auto parts store. So once you install them, they're yours. But what we can notice about the 3 index plugs is the last thread, where it ends for this index number B, or where the first thread starts, is right here on that side of the ground strap for these spark plugs. So I'm going to be looking at new spark plugs and seeing where that last thread ends. Like this one seems to, or that first thread, whatever you want to call the one closest to the firing end of the spark plug. See, this one is over here, whereas all these B's are over here. So this one wouldn't index properly. Now this one looks to be an excellent candidate. If you twist these about the same length and you look at where the thread starts on this one versus this one looks like it's going to index as a B. So I'm going to set that one aside in a different pile, in my keep pile. Okay, so of the 16 new plugs, 4 of them look like they're going to work. So I'm just going to examine these a bit closer and really hone in to the ones that look like exactly what I'm going for. Alright, one last time looking at the originals. There's definitely, from this side, there's no thread right there, a remnant of a thread here, and a partial thread in the back. Okay? And when I look at these 3, I really like what I'm seeing. No thread on the side. Barely the remnants of a thread here and about half a thread back here. And it's the same for all of these. So I think these are my 3. So nothing left to do but actually try to index them, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and check their resistance real quick. Alright, so checking the resistance of these, I really wanted to see a very tight, consistent resistance across all my new spark plugs, because I had read about that on a website for aircraft mechanics, and they geek out on finding nearly identical spark plugs. So I wanted to try to do that to see if I could have a better outcome in my Honda. Not that I have a way of testing it, but this throws me into a death spiral of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, and I wind up using other spark plugs that don't index quite as well, and I wind up having to buy what I don't want. Spoiler alert, sorry. Alright, we're going to be checking the resistance of these spark plugs. So my original spark plugs have a huge variation in where they sit. So the most reliable way I've found to find the resistance is butt it up on the tip. Wait, can you see that? Butt the black probe to the tip of the bottom, hold that in place, and then touch the tip here. So 4.7, 3.6, and this is the crazy one. Oh wait, that's 4.3. It depends where I hit it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so it must have been sparking over here, and this must be where the fresh meat is. 4.3. So I guess that's not that crazy. that's 1 kilo ohm variation, more or less. So now with these new ones, 5.4, 4.9. Shit. So these are 5 kilo ohm resistance. I hate seeing them slightly under. Makes me more comfortable than slightly over, because you think, you know, it would resist to a certain point. So which one was the high one? 5.4. God damn. Okay, whatever. Those are what's going in, because those are the only ones that will index the way I want. Okay, I have changed my criteria because I didn't like the big range in resistance. So instead of just solely based off of the remnants of the visible thread you have left, I'm putting my fingernail under that top thread, and I spin around and see where I lose grip of it. And all of these, I kind of lose grip of the thread right around the electrode, or right around the ground part of the thing. See, this one, I slip off of it more or less right around the electrode, and it's going through all of these. You know, they're about the same where I slip off. This one I slip off a little bit earlier, but it's kind of close. So let's try grouping the resistance of these and matching the resistance. So this is 5, 5.1, 4.7, 5.3, 5.4, 5, 5.1. Huh. Alright, having trouble. 5. Okay, so where was 5? So I'm going to throw out the 4.7 one. So if I just take these middle few, 5.1, 5, 5, 5.12. You know what? I might just try installing these 3. They're very close in resistance, nearly identical in thread and everything else. I'm just going to see what these will do. Is I have a piece of tape, and it more or less lines up with the opening. And you want to point that opening at the VTEC valve. So as I insert these and I torque them down, I'm going to try to make sure that this is pointing where I want it to. Okay, so let's just do it, see what happens. I had these in there to keep the rain out from of my cylinders, right? So we're going to go in here, get it started. We've officially bought this spark plug. You know, there's 4 valves in the head. You want it to point towards, I guess, the front driver's side one. That's the VTEC valve for each cylinder. That's where they do it. So we're going to torque it down, compress that thing, and see if it winds up where we want it to. So I'm going to do most of it like this, and then I'll put the torque wrench on it. Alright, it's getting tight. Uh-oh, we're going past. Oh no! We're not quite to the recommended torque setting just yet, and we're still compressing. Oh god, it's pointing towards the other intake. Shit, I failed. Okay, so I've pulled this one back out, and now I found one with the visually inspected thread pattern that seems right, even though the fingernail test is about the same. but the remnants of the thread goes slightly past the electrode. This one, I'm gonna try this one. Yeah, right, like that. So that one indexed in a nice way. I appreciate it for doing that for me. So we got one that I like. All right, so here's another spark plug that I like. Its threads continue to slightly pass the back of the electrode. So I'm going to install this one. So since I've already installed the one that didn't work out for me, I'm going to keep it for now. I think I'll go shopping again. But anyways, I'm going to return the rest of the spark plugs, and then I'm going to go to a different store and check theirs and see if I can find a third one that indexes. You know, the problem is these are $12 spark plugs. They're $9 from the NGK website, $12 from the auto parts store. So I think that one indexed perfectly too. So I guess the visual inspection is the way to go. The fingernail test was a failure for me, but just looking at the threads and seeing where the remnants of the very first thread as it fells, or it you know, pitters out, goes, I think that's a good test. The one that doesn't index correctly, going back in. So the problem, I guess, is I have the three that I believe would index just perfectly, but I don't want to use one that is so far off in its resistance. I want to group the resistance kind of tightly, hoping that helps with, you know, ensuring each spark plug gets the same quality spark. Because, you know, the way these coil packs work is they have two windings around this stack of plates, right? And one of them you know, makes a magnetic field, and then once it cuts the power to it, then that field collapses, it turns into voltage again, and then it leaves through the second winding, which has like 100 times more windings than the one that makes a magnetic field. So it steps up the voltage to whatever, thousands and thousands of volts as a transformer action, and then it comes down through the spark plug, and it sparks. And the resistance of the spark plug sort of cuts off the highs and the lows of that wild, you know, field collapse energy, and it helps prevent things like interference to electronics and such. You know, apparently, you know, before they had resistor spark plugs, you could not run a radio in a car because all you could hear was the spark plugs ticking. So, you know, it's fairly important. So there's that one. It again is pointing towards the wrong intake valve, but at least it's still on the intake side. Anyways, I'm just gonna plug this in and run it, and I'll take this to the parts store with me when I get my money back. All right, so here's the receipt. They cost $12.44 each after tax, right? So that means with three of them, you're at $37.50, and that's a significant savings over ordering the proper ones. Buying four of them, you're still saving money over buying the proper ones, but you're not doing it nearly as significant amount of savings. Doesn't matter. I think I'm not going to install this one since I don't like the resistance of it. I'm just going to roll with what I got. Two of them indexed to the VTEC intake, and one of them indexed to the non-VTEC intake. I guess the deal is probably the resistance doesn't matter unless it's way out of whack. You know, I bought the Autolite spark plugs that the auto shops recommend to put in this car that are not indexed, and I took the time and I found all the ones that would index. But when I checked the resistance, they're supposed to be 4K, you know, resistant spark plugs, and two of them had 6.8 and one of them had 7.8, and that was so far off. I was like, I don't want that. You know, NGK's range is all between 1 kilo ohm resistance, but I wanted to narrow that down even more. I'm not real sure why. I was on some website that was talking about the efforts that, you know, aircraft mechanics go through to you know, make their spark plugs really similar, and I got kind of hung up on the idea of trying to do that, right? I don't know. I think I'm trading resistance for indexing at the moment, and maybe I'll try the third O'Reilly's in town and look through their spark plugs too, and see if I can find. I just need to make sure I bring my multimeter with me to the store and test everything. But obviously, indexing your own spark plugs is not as easy as you would want it to be. Like, for the amount of money you save, like, I guess you could save half of the cost of buying the right ones, but you have to do more runaround. So since I've already bought these, I'm stuck with them because I installed them. That's what I'm going to use. But I guess the recommendation is just order them online. Seriously, if my cards had been accepted, I would have just waited for the right ones to show up. But the bank fraud detection system blocked it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll just do it this way. But anyway, let's get on the computer and look at the spark plug specifications and why I chose these spark plugs. So we're on the NGK website, and we have looked up the spark plug that comes with our cars from the factory. And it says this item is only available through a dealer. So you have to buy them through a Honda dealer. But what we can see from the information is the product specifications. So we get, the thread diameter, pitch, the reach, hex size, gap. The center electrode is Iridium fine wire, and it has an extended projection. And then the ground is a platinum, and it's a standard type. So we can take all that information and come over here and put it in to the reverse engineer part, and then it gives us this assortment of spark plugs that we can choose from. And so the reason why I chose this spark plug is because all of its information available matches. It has some information that's extra, like the 5K ohm resistor value, but other than that, the extended projection and all that matches. Because if you look through some of the other options, like this one right here, it has this like extended collar, firing in projection type plug. So this one has, a little bit of extra metal that comes up, and that helps with removing heat from the spark plug and from the cylinder or whatever. Because apparently the heat rating depends on how far the ceramic intrudes into the space. And so ours run hot, and so they're self-cleaning a little bit because the spark plug gets hot enough that it cooks off carbon buildup and stuff. And somewhere there's an explanation of that on one of these pages, but whatever. See how this one has a short amount of ceramic that comes up with a short ring right here. The ones that I bought have a short piece of metal there, but a long, extended ceramic thing there. So anyways, I went through all that to try to match up what everything means. You come through here, and so I is premium iridium, and then we have Z, extended projection, and then we have an L also, which is long thread reach. So it just means that it's the right length at 26.55 millimeter reach. And then, R means it's got a resistor, and 5 means the heat rating. And then this A, it means special code. And I cannot find any information to say what makes the firing in construction special. But, so we didn't match that up perfectly. And then the 11 means the gap. These spark plugs come with a preset gap. So, that's all well and dandy, right? So I just sort of went through all of these options until I found one that I thought, just looked the closest to it. And it turned out to be one of the cheaper ones. We have these number 5 rated spark plugs. And look at the difference here. It's the depth of this, ceramic core going into the threads, as well as this like the length of this cone shaped thing that changes. So a hot spark plug runs hotter and it cooks more, carbon buildup off of itself, and a cold one runs colder. And so you have to be careful. If you get the spark plug too hot, then you get pre-ignition, where it's just igniting from this thing glowing red hot apparently, and so the spark plug literally just transfers heat into the water jacket, and it goes off in the radiator, and the amount of heat it transfers is you choose what's right for the car, and I didn't know any of that. I think that's just a cool little side note. The more you know. So what I'm chasing down with my spark plugs is, again, I have the blinking green immobilizer light flashing and causing a misfire, and typical causes of that are dirty connections and corrosion. Could be anywhere in a fuse or a connection going to the ECM. It could be the signs of a bad immobilizer sensor pickup ring. But I've replaced everything. I don't even have an immobilizer anymore. I have an immobilizer bypass. It's still happening. The only clue that I have is there was a post, I think it was from Killer 3-cylinder, where he was chasing down a misfire vent that caused the immobilizer to skip, to flash when it misses. That was caused by an ignition coil boot having a crack in it. So he replaced that and he fixed it. So the clue is that something on the spark side of things can cause the immobilizer light to flash. So I just got these spark plugs in. I have not driven enough to say if I have fixed the problem yet, but while I drove, I did not have the immobilizer light flashing and the miss happening. But I probably need to go a couple 100 miles to ensure that that's the fix, obviously. But what it did do, which I was very excited about, is just running a lot better. So I do think there's something wrong with my old spark plugs. What I was able to do after it was warmed up, and I've been getting a lot better about figuring out throttle control and the difference between accelerating and maintaining speed. And so I did just a little experiment going up a long hill on a 45-degree road. I was in third gear, and I pulled from 30 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour, just barely accelerating. Such a light acceleration that every few seconds you'd go up a mile per hour, but the estimated instant fuel economy bar that runs back and forth, it was holding steady above 75 mile per gallon instant fuel economy as I was accelerating up a fairly steep hill very slowly. And that just is awesome that you can accelerate at 75 miles a gallon or more. So whatever these spark plugs are doing for me, I like that so far. I can't say that it solved my problem totally. But anyways, that's the conclusion of the video. I don't think it's worth the effort to try to index your own plugs. A lot of runaround, still not quite right. I'm so close to the amount of money it would have cost to buy the right spark plugs off the bat that it's just not worth it. Just order them, spend the $70, they'll come to you. You don't have to go to them. Pretty sweet deal. If this video is useful to you, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Y'all be good. Take it easy.